Welcome. My name is Bea Chatfield, and I am a landscape architect and project manager for Boston Parks and Recreation. And I want to welcome you tonight to our third and final community meeting for Ryan Playground. I need to let you all know that this meeting is being recorded, so we're going to be able to post it on our project website and share it with people who can't attend. And it'll be up on the website within a couple days, maybe a week. I am here tonight with Christine Brandeo, who is our community outreach coordinator at Parks, and Christine Wilson and Aaron Kramer of the Copley Wolf Design Group. They're our landscape architects. If we could go to the next slide. All right, so tonight we're still using our method that we've been using. It's been working pretty well. We have got our Zoom webinar, and that means you can communicate with us via the Q&A feature. So if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts during the presentation, you can just type it into the Q&A, and we will either respond to it during the conversation or we'll wait until the end. That's when we're going to open up the conversation and everybody can, you can unmute yourself if you raise your hand, we'll call on you. You can say whatever your thoughts are, your questions, and we will be able to respond then. So if you could go to the next slide. So we've got our team introduction here. This is our agenda. Then we're going to move into our project overview. We've got our overview of public engagement, which includes existing conditions summary, the previous concepts that we showed you all for our second meeting, and the public input that we received during the survey after that. And then fourth, we've got the presentation of the preferred design, which includes the site plan, the different play elements that we're going to be looking at that we'd love to hear your input on, and a group discussion, and then closing remarks and next steps. Next slide. So once again, here's our project team. I'm Bea Chatfield, project manager. Here's my email address and my phone number. I respond quickly to emails, and if you give me a call, I will call you back. We've got Christine Brandeo as well, her contact information, and then Christine Wilson and Aaron Kramer. And we've been working with Patrick Fandel. He's been a wonderful contact helping us get out into the community with the Office of Neighborhood Services. So next slide, please. Here we are with our project overview. So this is just a quick sort of recap of our project schedule. We kicked off our design process, our public outreach process in December with our first community meeting. We followed that up with a survey. Then we had our second community meeting in March, where we shared our concept alternatives. Followed that up with a survey as well. Each of our surveys, we've had a lot of good responses, and so it's really helped inform our design process. That's been great. And now here we are, community meeting number 3, where we're going to be sharing the design that's sort of a number of different components of all 3 of the initial concepts that we shared. After this meeting, we're going to be taking any feedback that we get at this meeting for, I'm going to say, you know, maybe 2 weeks. We're going to have sort of a comment period where anything that you guys share with us, either at this meeting or afterwards through our website, through email, we will incorporate changes into the plan. We'll continue to make tweaks. So this is, tonight is a check-in to sort of say, are we moving in the right direction? This is not to say what we show you tonight is absolutely fixed. Nothing's going to change. So this is really just sort of our check-in to say, you know, we think we got it right. Let us know, you know, what you guys think. So we move from this onto construction documents, and then we will begin construction in early spring of 2022. And we would be completing the project in summer of 2022. Just want to let everyone know tonight. So because this is a webinar, I don't know if you can see how many people are here, but right now we've got 17 participants. So if you're in the crowd wondering who else is here, we've got 17 people here, which is great. So if we get into the next slide. It looks like we have a slight lag on the slide, so you just please be patient with us. Thanks. Here we have our design process very quickly. We've got the City of Boston priorities that we try to include in all of our projects. Those are expanding walkable access to parks, addressing equity, climate resilience, community health, and community building. We also incorporate into each of our designs safety guidelines and regulatory guidelines. Our parks and recreation goals, we try and further those as well. Those include making parks accessible and available to all, creating a diverse, balanced, and efficient mix of uses, meaningful and inclusive community engagement, and adaptive and resilient landscapes. We also try to promote connections as well. And then the fourth part of that, obviously, is community input, which is why we are here tonight talking to you. This is one of the most important elements. And so we bring all of these elements together and we consult with talented designers and we come up with our park design. Please go on to the next slide. So I'm going to pass it over, pass it over to the design team.
Thank you, Bea. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight, joining us to look at Ryan Playground, our third and community meeting. So my name is Christine Wilson. I'm a landscape architect with Copley Wolf Design Group, and Aaron Kramer is here with me today to answer any questions you have. So I'll be going through the existing conditions summary. This is a very kind of brief summary of what we presented in our first community meeting. And then I'm also going to go over the previous concepts. So that's the three concept alternatives we presented in the second community meeting. And then I'm going to follow that up with just showing you all the community input we received. We got some great responses to the questions we asked following that second meeting about the concepts and other aspects of the design. So bear with me, my slide deck is a little slow tonight. So here we go, we're going to dive in together. Site location. If you're not from the neighborhood, over on the left-hand side is a city scale aerial, which shows where this neighborhood, this park is located. This playground is in the Dorchester neighborhood near the the JFK T-line stop on the red line. So across 93 from Oakley Park. It is in the Columbia Savin Hill neighborhood, off of Dorchester Avenue at the corner of Dorchester Avenue and Harborview Street. So here is a map that highlights all the other open space in the area. There's a big circle there that's dashed, is a half-mile radius, so 10-minute walk depending on what streets you navigate down. So you can see it's about a 10-minute walk from Oakley Park, depending on how fast you move, of course. So we're just looking at when we dove into this, we took an assessment of what is this playground relative to other open space in the area. We also looked at more at the neighborhood scale, block scale, right around what's going on the streets right around the playground. So on Dorchester Avenue, right across the street, there's that business plaza. There was the former Dorchester Market, Tom English's, which is going to be a new mixed use development. Around the corner, the Little House Alternative School. And then on the same side of Dorchester Avenue, there's just north, there's the condominiums and the gallery space. And then to the south, so across Harborview Street, there's the Baptist Church. And then, moving kind of in either direction, there's single family and multifamily homes. So we looked at the points of access and the circulation around the playground. Dorchester's two-way traffic. Harborview is one-way traffic moving west to the corner of Dorchester Avenue. There, as far as biking, there is a blue bike stop right next to the entrance into the park, in that parking lane. So there's street parking on all these streets. And you can see this diagram shows the crosswalks as well. There are three in total, pedestrian access points. The one highlighted with the purple square, that's what you see in the photo up on the top left, that big shade structure above some stairs. So that's not an accessible access if you're in a wheelchair or, pushing along a stroller or a walker. That is not accessible. And then around on Harborview Street, there's this wide ramp that was originally put in for maintenance vehicles, as far as I understand. And that slope is not accessible either. It exceeds 8% slope. And then there's a little set of stairs right next to it as you move east, right page down Harborview Street. There's a little set of stairs, which you see on the bottom left. So in summary, none of the access points into the playground are accessible, which is, a big part of this renovation project. We also took a look assessing pervious surface and site lighting. So pervious surface is looking at softscape versus hardscape. So areas where stormwater can infiltrate into the ground versus running off hardscape and collecting, in the storm drain. The softscape, can absorb, infiltrate pollutants from runoff. This isn't as big of a deal because there's no parking lots or roadways flowing into the playground. The playground's above the street, but the amount of pervious surface softscape also contributes to urban heat island effect. It mitigates it. So hardscape increases it, softscape decreases that environmental effect, providing some cooling for the neighborhood. As far as site lighting, that's important for us to look at because at night, what areas of this playground are well lit, what are not so well lit, and to what extent are they well lit. So we took a look at the lighting as well in our existing conditions analysis. And I think the last thing I'll touch on is our trees analysis. So we had a certified arborist go out to the site and assess all the trees. And there's a variety of species out there, which is really awesome. And a lot of the trees are in good condition, some not so much. So we took a look at the condition of the trees, the species of the trees, as we move forward into the concept design. So what's inside the park as far as site furniture and other features. So here's a whole array of what we found, which if you've been to the park, know it well, these things. So we have, there's 3 bays of swings right now. There's 4 belt seats and 2 bucket seats. There's also a 5 to 12 play structure and a 2 to 5 play structure. So that means like a small structure for 2 to 5-year-olds and a larger structure for 5 to 12-year-olds. These are designed specifically for those age groups. Just kind of moving around in a circle, going down to the water play area. So there's art tiles in the water play, that zone. What we heard in the very first meeting was that the community members would like to see a water play area that is twice as big as this because it is so popular in the summer. Moving up to the entry gateway, we've, and I can get into this because we asked it in the second survey about people's favorability for the entry gateway. Is it important to keep it or not? And what we've heard is not. So that's that entry gateway, which is great. I'll get into this later because it opens up some opportunities to create better accessibility into the park. And then pavement games up at the top. The hopscotch is in that large paved area, as well as the chess tables and other art pavement markings. Over by the 2 to 5 area, there's and the swings, there's that drinking fountain, and then there's the frog, and then there's benches throughout the park, and up a flagpole right near that entryway gateway. So those are kind of all the pieces to the existing playground. So here's an aerial view, just kind of looking down at an angle. It's at the at where all these pieces are. So here's that big pavement area I talked to with the chess tables and the hopscotch Foursquare. There's that entry gateway, not quite on the corner. There's a hall. This is the location where they have a holiday tree, you might know. There's the flagpole right behind these trees. We can't see it because of the view of the trees. Picnic tables. So there's both the blue kind of circular picnic tables and then the couple square chess tables. This is the 5 to 2 versus the 2 to 5 area, the swings, the water play area right in the middle of the site. And that kind of summarizes it. So I can come back to that if anyone has any questions, but that's really what the first meeting was about. And this is what the second meeting was about. It was about the concept alternatives. So for that second meeting, we came to you all with 3 concepts. A was the Great Lawn, B was the meandering paths, C was the play loop. And we reached out to you all to say, what do you like? What do you dislike? We can mix and match these and redesign, change the design to meet your needs. So some key attributes of these are kind of listed below. That Great Lawn, it had a large central lawn with that loop path. It showed a new main entry gateway right on the corner and 3 entrance points. And then the play areas were all connected, in kind of one swath on the east side, the right side of the playground away from Dorchester Ave. And then there are a couple, separate seating areas. Versus concept B, which had more of a meandering path opposed to that big loop. It still had a pretty good sized lawn, not quite as big, but then the nodes around it for play area were all kind of separated. And it had this water play path on this far side opposed to kind of one splash pad node. And then there's a skateboard area for older children. And then in the last concept, this one, so the B was the only one with the skate park, and C was the only one with the basketball. And it had, it's a perimeter path meandering around the site. This one reuses the existing entrance gateway. It assumed we'd keep it, in the same location. I forgot to mention on B, it was more of a bigger seating area right on the corner. Anyway, this C concept also had a central plaza with tables. I think that basically sums up those 3, though ask questions when we get to the question period, ask questions about it for sure. So like B mentioned, we took after that second community meeting, we posted an online survey and we got 48 responses, which as a designer who works on a bunch of parks and playgrounds, that's a pretty great turnout. So thank you all who are on the call who participate in that survey. It's really helpful for us to understand what the community needs. As a designer, I don't have a preference. I just want to do a design that meets your needs to best. So we put out this survey and you'll see that one of these questions that we asked was, well, what do you prefer, A, B, or C? And the numbers are not whole round numbers. We didn't get 6.2 people saying that they wanted the Great Lawn. These are ranked answers. It was a ranked question, like rank, in order of preference. And so or weighted, you can say. So if, 5 people said that they wanted the Great Lawn versus or ranked it as their number 1 choice, and 5 people ranked it as their 7th choice, it took an average. And so that's why the numbers aren't whole. So, but the main takeaway is that the majority of folks, when you add all the ranked answers together, there was the greatest preference collectively for a large central lawn, followed by a water play area, connected play areas, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't mean that no one, didn't want one thing or another. It's just, this is kind of the ranking that we receive when we bring all the responses together. So again, big takeaways: great lawn. Everyone liked the large, great central lawn. Okay, that's good for us to know. In the meandering pass one, there was that meandering loop path came out high. And then in C, the perimeter walking path was the most preferred. So as we're going through these, we're analyzing and figuring, okay, like big lawn, the pathway is popular, and just kind of going through these. And of course, we're coming back to you with what we have, analyzing the survey results, what we've interpreted as what the community wants. But we're coming to you tonight to have that discussion. Does this, what we've designed, meet your needs and your expectations? So that's not the only survey question we asked. We also asked about ranking in order of preference, again, what you would like to see at Ryan Playground. And we had the large open lawn, the half-court basketball, the walking loop, the large seating area, and the skate dot. So I'm going to bring your attention to that wheel in the middle, which is the first choice selection. So that's the number of people who ranked something as a first choice, right? And the most people ranked the large open lawn as their first choice. Second was the half-court basketball, followed by the walking loop and the large central seating area. When we did that kind of ranking, those are the results here on the left. So we can see that some people aren't, ranked half-court basketball probably lower, but of course we see the number of people who it's their number one choice, they really want it. So we went to the kids. We asked the fifth graders at BCCS. We got 62 responses, just double check. Yeah, 62 responses. 62 kids participated in this survey. Again, awesome. Thank you so much. So we asked them to choose their top 3 activities when they're not using the play equipment. And these are the results we got. So, the top 3, I'll just highlight, was the riding the bike or scooter. This is in line kind of with what we got for the survey, right? The last one, everyone was liking the meandering loop or the path around it all. So we know path, the big kind of loop path is what folks are wanting. Basketball was number 2, and pavement games was number 3. So we're listening. Okay, next question. What are the 3 activity types that are most important to you? Swinging, climbing, sliding. Those were the top 3. And then we asked the 5th graders, and swings, climbing, spinning. So I guess our takeaway is if more adults did the survey, the online survey, then I guess adults like sliding while kids like spinning. But we're looking to incorporate all 4 of those things into the playground. So good news for all. Let's see if we can get to the next slide. Okay, color family. Cool colors, warm colors, neutral colors. That was the order of preference that we received, again, collectively, when we average all the rank answers together. And we use SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey does all the math for us, because I'm not good at that. So those were the results we got. The cool colors was preferred the most, which is interesting because the 5th graders had blue, a cool color, as their favorite. So looks like there's going to be some blue in this playground because, both groups voted high for cool colors in blue. The kids also like yellow, green, red, and you can see kind of descending order of the preference in colors for the playground. And those colors will be used in the playground equipment, but also we'll have color in the rubber, the resilient surfing that's located under the play equipment for safety. So another question was rank the type of main entry you would like to see at Ryan Playground. If you recall what I was describing, A, B, and C, There is that new entry gateway, which could be just a gateway right at the entrance versus a plaza right down on the corner of Dorchester Avenue. And then the last option C had the existing entry gateway, which when we asked the question, as I kind of alluded to earlier, keeping it was not as favorable as a new entry design, like one of the top two images. And technically, when we got all the ranked answers together, the new entry gateway, that image on top, was most preferable by everyone. Again, collectively in total. So that's kind of it running through the survey question responses we received. I mean, we did get comments separately, like all the surveys. There was an option to like write some comments, in the comment box, and we did get some input in there that I just wanted to highlight, which is, someone said that they love the idea of the basketball court. Well, someone else said a basketball court should not even be considered. So we hear that not everyone's on the same page about that. But again, on the survey results, we did hear more voices in favor of basketball than not. But again, we have heard that there is not everyone's on the same page. So a walking loop is a great idea for our neighbors. Kids would love a path for bikes, scooters. We have a lot of elderly neighbors who already use the park space for light fitness activities. And us designers, we've actually seen that when we've been by the playground. So that kind of checks out with a lot of the survey input we've received, as well as our own observations. Grass is more important than concrete. Well, I mean, I would agree from that as far as what I talked about earlier about the environmental aspects, right? The pervious surface. This person might be talking more about, the need for grass for kicking around the soccer ball or Zumba. We know that exists, as well as maybe throwing around a Frisbee. So then someone said they think a basketball court is more useful than a skate spot. Again, that checked out with the other survey responses. And then someone said that they like the Great Lawn. Okay, so taking that, we realized that it wasn't that's the winner. It's a combination. So we went back to the drawing board to come up with a concept that merged the most favorable aspects of each concept into one, really trying to apply the input we received, the feedback we received in the surveys to the design. And that is what we'll be sharing with you tonight. And again, looking for input and like kind of your buy off on this as we move forward to build you this playground. So I'll go through the preferred site plan first. And then we're going to just open it up to comments and questions. And then I will move through play element options, because next we're selecting play equipment for the design. It's not just about the layout, however, how this space is located relative to this other space, but we'll be selecting the equipment that goes into these spaces, and we would like your help in doing so. So we'll be posting a kind of series of images, 4 images per topic, and we'll be asking for you to vote on those through the chat or verbally by raising your hand. And after we've kind of gone through all that, gotten all the input, kind of if there's still time left over, I mean, we're keeping it open to discussion. We want to make sure everyone who has something to say or something to ask has that opportunity. So this is really the last chunk of the meeting. Okay, so ready for this? We're going to dive in the site plan. Ta-da! So let me walk you through this. Dorchester Ave is on the left, Harborview is on the bottom of the sheet. We heard the preference for the entry gateway. And so that is what we have on the corner of Dorchester and Harborview. As you move up into this space, this is an accessible, both entrances and the walking loop itself is accessible. It is under 5% slope. So as you move up a little bit into to the loop, we have a loop. You can see it around a great lawn. Again, responding to the feedback we received. As you move around the lawn, I'm just going to go counterclockwise. We have a long table, local seating area under this large existing tree. And that can be used for the, the art group, folks coming over from the school, birthday parties, any event where you kind of have multiple people wanting a longer table, which is something that doesn't exist right now at the playground. As you keep on going kind of around the loop, there's a half court basketball, because again, we heard the most voices in favor of the basketball when you factor in both the survey and what the kids said. As we continue around the loop, there are a couple small nodes of seating, which is smaller tables. So you don't all have to sit at one large table together, but there's other opportunities similar to what exists today for just sitting at smaller tables. And then the first kind of pink area we get to on the top, that's a 2 to 5 area. So that is for the 2 to 5, the play structure designed for ages 2 to 5. And then over on the right-hand side, on the east side, is this 3 bays of swings, which is similar to what there's 3 bays now, and generally roughly that area. So we have the swings, followed by an area that we could have a spinner or a dish swing or a swaying element. I'll get into that later. And then the last, again, as you move down the pink area to that bottom corner closest to Harbor View Street, is the 5 to 12 structure. This is for the older kids. So then across from that is the water play zone, which will be designed to be twice as big, generally in the same area, which is great for reutilizing existing utilities, but much larger to accommodate how popular it is in the summer. We have designed this very specifically to preserve as many existing trees as possible. There are a few that will be removed, and those are the ones that are highlighted with the dash circle. And so we're going to be removing 5 in total, but the condition of these trees is that we examined them, and it makes sense for them to be removed because they are in poor condition. And also, of course, we want to kind of maximize, give you the best playground, to the extent possible. So we kind of did that balance where we said, okay, we want all these things, and how can we mold them into the space while preserving as many existing trees as possible. So we think we did a pretty good job, but let us know your thoughts about kind of all of this. I guess I should just, before I open it up, I should highlight that the existing trees are the ones with the dots in the middle, and the new trees, we're going to put back some new trees, introduce some new trees, and those are the ones with the crosses in it here. And then there's another entrance off of Harbor View Street, again accessible, unlike the ones that are there today. The flagpole is remaining in its location, and one, because I think folks are interested in it staying, but also is easy to design around. We weren't giving up anything. It wasn't creating any grading issues. So that was kind of an easy thing just to maintain where it's located. And then the holiday tree, we think it would be more visible up on this corner just because of the existing tree canopy and what's going on around the entrance on the corner. But B, I think I've kind of run through this plan. I don't know if you have anything to add, or if we should just, we can open it up for discussion.
I think you did a fantastic job explaining all of the influences and all of the details about the survey, and that was very helpful. And I think, yeah, you did a great job walking us through the design. So I see we have one question already in the Q&A, and I think, as Christine said, this is something where we're going to open this up for people's thoughts and responses to the greater design that you're looking at right now. And then we also have some more slides beyond this to talk about specific play equipment that you might like. And we're going to ask you to vote on that, you know, and either put your answer in the Q&A or raise your hand and share your thoughts about that. So if you don't have any thoughts just yet, that's fine. But I'm just going to read. Aaron Kimball says, is there any way to make the water play area bigger? So physically, yes, we've got a lot of room. But I think, you know, what we're looking at is sort of a linear, instead of having it arrayed in a circle the way it is right now, it's more linear. So it provides a lot more activity in a longer line. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, Christine or Aaron.
Yeah, definitely. I'll start off where we have some images for you to vote on at kind of in the next little section of this meeting. But what we're looking at the water play is not just one node, it's actually a path that connects from up here to down here. And the square footage of it is twice as big as what it is existing. So if you want it bigger than where the size of it today, you got that for sure. So we're going twice as big, but we're also trying to balance the size of the water play with the size of the great lawn. We want to achieve for you all that great lawn, a sizable enough lawn where folks can do Zumba and they can throw around a Frisbee. And so we're trying not to eat into it too much. Hopefully that answers your question. Again, there will be slides about water play specifically for you to add additional input to.
Okay, and I see we also have two different questions having to do with fencing. And so Kara and Michelle both want to know if the tot lot is fenced in and whether the basketball court is enclosed also. So I'm going to say generally at this level of design, we haven't really addressed fencing, but we can certainly take your pointers on whether or not you think certain areas of fencing is a good idea. I think generally what we're getting towards these days in parks is if the larger park is fenced in, we don't consider that the tot lot needs to be fenced within that fenced park. But I'm curious, you know, why don't you either raise your hand and you can speak about it, or you can put in the Q&A what your thoughts are having to do with if you think it's a good idea to fence in the 2 to 5 area. Because right now we don't have any fencing drawn on the plans. But, you know, for the basketball, we would probably include fence for sure at the back behind the basket itself, just to prevent balls from flying all over the place. But, you know, that's something that we generally add sort of further on in design. But if you have thoughts about that, please either raise your hand or add it to the Q&A.
We have a raised hand.
Okay.
Devin, you can go ahead.
Hello, good evening. I'm a resident of Howe Street. So thanks for doing this. I just wanted to point out, I've been following what you've been doing sort of on the periphery, and I'm generally really happy with the amount of effort and thought and attention to detail. I like the design overall. I'm going to be honest, except for the basketball court. I'm surprised. I'm a little bit surprised that the community would support the basketball court. It's a small space. I'm a little bit concerned about the proximity of the basketball court to the tot lot. I'm concerned about some recent events in the neighborhood within a 10-minute walk, Joan Walkley Park, recent activity there, including the shooting that impacted many people that I know live in the neighborhood. Wondering if we want to just open this up for anyone else might be interested or have some thoughts. You know, and wondering about who would use it, because I've been going to this playground for 8 years. probably about 4 times a week. And I've very, very rarely seen kids, middle school kids. I've very rarely seen 5th graders. I've mostly seen small children. That's what it's geared towards. So I'm wondering about the input from the 5th grade cohort into an area that they haven't really used traditionally that I've seen. You know, and just in general, just wondering about whether that's the best choice for this small space right now. Otherwise, I really like everything else put in here. I really, really like the water play area. Probably been pointed out many times that the shrubs have to go. The tree areas are fine, but the shrubs areas are a magnet for homeless people sleeping. Quite a bit of IV drug use behind those shrubs. I know because I pick up the needles myself. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. So any kind of greenery area has to be designed in such a way that prevents any kind of lack of viewing from the street. Last thing I'll say is my firsthand experience with this park also at the times when I've had to notify authorities because of drug use or disturbances, things like that. The response from the police department's been extremely slow. And I don't know if that's just because of the proximity of the police department to this park in the neighborhood, Dorchester. But it's not been a priority of the police department to police this park historically. So anything that can be done to make it safer and would be my preference. At that point, I'll end my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Davin. We definitely appreciate hearing from you. As far as the security goes, we have definitely, we had an officer attend our last meeting, and we're definitely aware of the sort of threats posed by needles that have been discarded, site visibility lines having to do with, you know, central planters with shrubs in them or the shrubs around the edges. So we're certainly looking to increase visibility and increase safety. With regard to the basketball, you know, it was something where it was expressed, I think at our first meeting, that it would be nice to give kids that are older than, you know, the play equipment says 5 to 12. But my daughter is 5 and she already gets bored by 5 to 12 equipment. So, you know, if you're 10 and you've played on the equipment for a while, a half court basketball gives you the opportunity to do that activity as well. It's just something different. You know, I would say that perhaps you haven't seen older kids because there isn't anything for them to do, you know, and by older kids, I'm not saying like 18 to 20, I'm saying, you know, 10 to 12 to 14 perhaps. But, you know, older siblings exist. And I think it's great if we can get the young teenagers out and active and trying to promote physical activity and engagement with their community. And I think basketball is good for that. And I think any number of other physical activities are as well. As you mentioned, this is a small site and I agree with you. It's not, you don't want to put 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. But I think as far as the layout proposed, I think that the designers have managed to accommodate these uses with enough elbow room and enough sort of breathing space. I think locating the basketball close to the street, you know, it reduces some of the noise that can sometimes be an issue having to do with bouncing a ball. You know, we're not adjacent to any residences in this plan. So, you know, I hope that calms some of your concerns. But I appreciate your sharing your thoughts.
And we have one more. Erin has her hand up.
Okay.
Erin, you can unmute yourself.
Go ahead. Is there a slide? my daughter Lily would like to know if there was a slide.
There will definitely be slides. There will be slides. She sounds like she's in the 2 to 5 set. I'm not sure.
Yep.
Good. Well, I'm glad she's here tonight so she can help us select some of the 2 to 5 equipment perhaps. We're also going to have slides for the 5 to 12 equipment as well. So
All kinds of slides. Thank you.
thank you. Just going to go back to the Q&A for a second. Kirill says the design looks fantastic. Thank you. So that is great to hear. Thank you, Kirill. There were a couple of people who wrote back to the Q&A responding that they really liked the idea of fencing in the 2 to 5 area. So we'll certainly consider that. That sounds like a distinct preference. Kara Gillis says, is the holiday tree an actual tree, like an evergreen tree planted there, or is it a space to place a cut tree in December? We were thinking it would be an actual tree. The idea is that you wouldn't have to place something and get rid of it every year. So it would be a large, probably not a huge tree because those are difficult to transplant, but a tree that will grow over time that you could use as your holiday tree. Michelle Sen asks, what seating would be available for the older pink area? Mainly the 2 picnic tables, ? So why don't you, does the design team want to talk a little bit about seating?
Yeah, absolutely. So the seating, I should have said this earlier, but it's everything that's kind of an orange. So we have the long table. I did talk about this earlier. So something that's 8+ feet long, whatever we can kind of fit in that space while still preserving that large existing tree. We also are showing some seat walls or benches. We know that there's a preference, especially for those with maybe mobility issues, to have armrests and backrests. So that's kind of what these this is in here next to the water play are benches. And then we have a couple tables, smaller tables like the ones that exist right out there. We're showing one right next to the court, one right across from the 2 to 5 area, one between the 2 to 5 area and swings, and then one over down by the 5 to 12 area. So again, the seating is all these elements in orange right here. Once we kind of dig more into the design, we might find that actually a bench for grading purposes or navigating around tree roots, etc., might be better in a different location. But our goal is to have a variety of seating site-wide where you can watch someone playing on the 2 to 5 equipment, as well as over in the water play and near swings, etc. So there isn't any seating within the pink. The pink denotes the rubber surfacing that will be needed for a safety surface for under and around all the play equipment.
Okay. If we don't have any more hands raised, I'm just
We
gonna-
do.
Oh, you do? Okay. Let's get some hands.
Lauren, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. Just a few thoughts. No major groundbreaking things, I don't think. First, thanks for your presentation and for the thoughtful design. My first thought with the basketball court is that we have also very high incidence of fireworks in the area, and basketball courts tend to attract firework setting. So actually, it's not even the basketball playing that makes me more concerned, it's the fireworks. So that would be my draw for the no vote. But otherwise, I was just thinking that we have been to Dorchester Park, which was recently redone, and Garvey Playground, which is also just reopened. And the big kids love the huge structure at Dorchester Park. It is mind-boggling how large that structure is. So I do wonder if that would draw and give something for older kids to be brought out by. And then I'm just thinking about one of the challenges at Garvey now is there's not a ton of places for parents to sit on the sides. So I'm wondering about more bench seating along the edges of the pink areas, or just as if there's no fencing or gates in these areas, benches can kind of be built-in barriers of sorts as well. So that's it.
Thank you, Lauren. Those are some good points. That's good to know about firecrackers being an issue, and that's good to know that they sort of perhaps correlate with basketball. I can talk to my other project managers and see what sort of efforts have been taken to try and mitigate that. The benches is a great idea, and you're right. You know, we're showing a lot of the benches between the play areas, but perhaps it would be good to add some more around the perimeter, perhaps in addition to a fence or in certain areas in lieu of a fence. It's a nice idea. Just quick.
I'm gonna unmute Jackie next.
Hello. Thanks again for having us here. This is really exciting. I just had an idea about the 2 to 5 area. My son is 2.5 and he's already somehow figuring out how to master the older kids area at the current Ryan playground, which is terrifying. But I will say that in the 2 to 5 kind of area, what if that was like more of an imagination area where kids could do relational play or some kind of, fine motor skill movement instead of like a straightforward tiny slide, or just like a miniature version of the slide, but more so just an idea of how to play in different ways.
This is a big one.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to say anything about the playground?
It's a toy book.
Thank you.
I love the input. I like I said, my daughter sort of like aged out of the 2 to 5 equipment very quickly. So I feel your pain. But I also think that so my contact info is in this presentation like a few different times. If you could email me photos of things that you're thinking of that would be like nice additions, like types of things that you have encountered perhaps at other parks that your son enjoys to do. We do have to balance, maintainability is often a challenge. And when it comes to like moving parts or, like freestanding pieces, like, blocks that you could bring up, those things are challenging for the Parks Department, but there's certainly room for other creative things that if you have any ideas, I would love to hear them. That would be great. So thank you and your son for contributing. Quick from the Q&A, Marta says that we need basketball courts. They took them down everywhere. And then she said they need to be next to the tot lot so parents are near them and prevent drugs. So I'm not sure about the tot lot proximity to basketball or what that is about, but Marta, if you want to explain the tot lot.
She has her hand up also.
Oh, cool. Okay. So let's go back to some hands then.
Martha, you can unmute yourself.
She wrote on the chat, on the Q&A, she said, sorry, I'm on a phone and I can't call in. So perhaps she can't unmute herself. She said, thank you for the basketball so kids do not have to walk far to the few courts left by the city. They are so needed on Dorchester Ave. So if you can't unmute yourself, Marta, we are hearing you. Thank you for contributing that. That is very good to hear.
We have one more hand raised also. This is Barbie. You can't unmute yourself because you're using an older Zoom. If you want to just type it in the Q&A.
Sorry, the technology.
So
snafu.
B, I should have mentioned this earlier. We do have some images to talk to this, but with the basketball court, the half court, we were also, knowing how small this playground is. We wanted to look at opportunities to make it multi-purpose, like with pavement graphics. So if you're not a basketball player, maybe there's Foursquare or other pavement games. So it's a multifunctional, multi-use court. So again, we have some images once we get through all the Q&As to go through to vote on and get more thoughts about specifics. But I just wanted to raise that so people can think if they're in favor of that or not.
Okay, so Kara Gillis had a couple of contributions here as well in the Q&A. She said, we used to wait for the BPS school bus at the opening of the park. It was wonderful to have a covered area to stand when it was raining. If you remove the pergola, there is no other protected area, just something to think about. Okay, and there used to be a basketball court there before the current design. I know the older kids missed it when it was removed. All right, that is some good history. And that's good to consider the rain protection of the pergola. Perhaps it's something where we make a smaller alternative design that includes some sort of shaded structure or something like that. I think the current design is quite large for the site, so it might be nice to do something perhaps smaller, maybe more scale appropriate, but that's good to know that you used it previously for waiting for the bus. That's a good anecdote there. Michelle Sen said that I appreciate the teenagers having a space. I saw them hang out at the swings before. Kirill says, and this is not just a shout out to me, but this is just that everybody knows the tenor of the room here. Kirill says, I 100% agree with B. Chatfield on all points regarding basketball court. So thank you, Kirill. Peter Brandeo said, why is there a half court and not a full court? Question of scale. Do you want to talk about that, Christine, or I can talk about it too?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just start off by saying we're trying to take everyone's input and be able to make this, holistically all together, get in something that is that meets people's needs. So as Pierre, you've probably heard there's some people who are not in favor of a basketball court. And when we're looking at getting in the 2 to 5, the swings, the 5 to 12 structure, the water play being twice as big, a great lawn, and maintaining a lot of the existing trees, to help, enhance or help with the urban forest and environmental issues. It was a little bit of a challenge, honestly, to find a good spot for the half basketball court. And so if we do a full basketball court, we're losing the great lawn, or, and so then, weighting it, looking at the input we've received to date, that's kind of where we landed, was that the great lawn was, of course, like kind of number one thing for the majority of people. And the half court basketball was added. Again, we're thinking, hey, could it be, with graphic paint, multifunctional? Because we are hearing a lot of votes, especially from the kids, those fifth graders wanting the half basketball. So again, just trying to meet the needs of everyone. And we understand this is not gonna, if you or someone else was designing this, you would probably prioritize one thing over another, but we're trying to satisfy and meet the entire community's needs with this design. So B, I don't know if you have anything to add to that or clarify.
No, I think that you touched on a lot of good points, and I think that, yeah, the idea is here that this provides some additional amenities for kids, and it's not meant to be you know, a real location where everyone comes and plays full on basketball games, you know, like, you know, there are other courts that are nearby, as Davin pointed out. I think Moakley has some full-size courts. So this is just something where people can develop their skills, do a half-court game, you know, and I think balances it nicely with other activities such as, you know, the Great Lawn, other play equipment. So thank you for describing that, Christine. Maureen M says that the plan looks great. You meshed feedback nicely. Thank you. And she also says, I agree more seating areas might be needed, but I feel a bit more near the entrance or passive open grass area, as I see many older folks picnicking or sitting or talking. Immediate area around the park is densely populated, and most people have no yards or very small yards. So that is great feedback to hear. And let's see, Erin Kimball asks, will there be Foursquare? Yes, we can certainly include Foursquare. Matt Ledin said, will there be more lighting specifically around the basketball court? We are not looking to increase the amount of lighting in the park, and we will not be lighting specifically the basketball court. The idea is that parks are closed at night, and we don't want to attract nighttime activities to our playgrounds and parks. So we're not going to be increasing the number of lights. I think if you guys want to, the proposed plan that we're showing here has the existing locations of the lights, right, Christine?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so that's something that we'll be developing, but the idea is not to make this a nighttime destination. It's just to light it minimally, just so that people could get around the path and leave the park. If they're sitting there and having a picnic and the sun goes down, we want to make sure that they can exit the park safely and not trip over anything. So that is our goal. Marta contributes that the second renovation of the park needs half-court basketball. Teens walk far to hoops. The city took them down and they need it. So Barbie says, I'm concerned that there isn't something besides the trees to provide some shade from the sun. Do you think trees provide enough shade? Lots of question marks. Christine, what do you think?
Here in Boston, shade is mostly needed in the summer months where these trees are deciduous and do provide shade. So I would personally, I would say, yes, these trees provide good shade, and we're positioning the tables and chairs under canopies to the extent possible where we don't damage any roots, and locating new trees like the tree right next to the water, next to the bench next to the water play is on the south side. So it also, matters where the seating is located relative to the tree for like the lights coming more from the south. So therefore positioning the bench more to the north or northeast, helps protect against sun. But we did hear that earlier comment about that shade structure and having that shelter from rain, when you're waiting for the bus. And so I think this does go kind of hand in hand with that. If there is a desire for more shade, protection from the sun in this space.
So Jackie West Devine, her husband Aaron, is typing in her Q&A. He says, any plans for a public art piece at the playground? It would be great to pay a Dorchester sculptor to create something unique and iconic for the park. That is a very cool idea. If you have any specific ideas that that you're thinking of, any sculptors, or if there is a sculpture that you're thinking of that needs a home, let me know, email me about it. My sole hesitation about art in our capital project renovations is that the time frame for it is much longer than our standard renovation time frame. In order to plan for it, to get it approved, the Art Commission needs to be involved, great group of people, but the more sort of moving parts, the longer these things take. So it is a little bit of a priority thing. And if the priority really is art, then we would consider altering the timeline. My hesitation is that because we're hearing it now, we hadn't heard it really before, so we hadn't planned on it. So I'm not saying straight up no, because I think it's a cool idea. But I think if you want to email me about it, then maybe we could develop the idea further and see if it has legs, I guess. So, thank you.
Bruce has his hand up. Bruce, you can unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear
We
you.
can hear you.
Okay, my name's Bruce. Just a couple of comments. I think the overall plan's really good. It's great lawn, the grass. With the basketball court, it's towards Dot Ave, and frankly, there's not a basketball court, even a half court, anywhere in the neighborhood. And I know, I mean, I'm 70 years old, but I've got neighbors and people who play basketball. And I think it would be fair to open the park up to everybody. Also, that court where it's located doubles as a space if you want to have a community flea market, if you want to have some music, with people sitting on the lawn, you have a hard surfaced area that you can do that on. So it's just a suggestion. I think we should open up. Also would suggest you're doing more surveying. You might want to ask the kids as they come back over to the Russell School and the public school around the corner, what they might be interested in. And finally, you're gonna have a lawn and everything else. What's the arrangements for taking care of the lawn and watering? And will there be dedicated electrical service somewhere? So if you do have music or an event or something, you have electricity available. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Those are some great points. And I agree with you that it can certainly be a flexible space, the basketball court. It's, you know, a good flat area where you can like set up for a band or a flea market. I think those are great ideas. So thank you for bringing that up. As far as available electrical connections, we somewhat hesitate to do that, but we can certainly look at that as an option. I think that we were already thinking about it having to do with plugging in the lights for the holiday tree. So I think it would be something where we could have sort of like a box that, you know, certain people have access to, but we don't really like to provide just like an outlet because then I think we just end up paying for everybody to charge their phones all the time, which is sort of not like the way we want to go necessarily. But those are all great points. So thank you for contributing that. There is one more Q&A, and then maybe we move on in the presentation and have people take a look at different play equipment. So Kara says, there's a park playground in Back Bay that we used to go to when my kids were young. It was a favorite because there were toys, ride-on toys, balls, digging, sandbox toys, etc., that were all donated by neighbors as their kids outgrew them. What made it work was a little shed structure that could be used to store the items. No one worried if things went missing or broken because there was a steady stream of donations. I feel like this neighborhood has that type of community that would support something like that. It was really nice. Shared ride-on toys would be especially nice with the loop you've created. While there are a lot of trees here, there's not much shade over any of the existing play structures. Okay. The surfaces of the slides would always get too hot in the summer. Some shade structures over the play areas would be appreciated. I think what we try and do having to do with shade is plant trees to the south of the play structures. And we may shift some of the locations of the trees. I'm looking right now at the 2 to 5 area. The orientations of this play equipment may change also, you know, because I definitely experienced that like searing hot metal slide in the summertime. No one likes that. We're definitely trying to reduce that kind of a situation. That's an interesting idea with a shed to keep, you know, sort of like a lean-to perhaps or something, to store items. There is currently a shed out there and it was used to store sort of like gardening equipment and stuff like that. But it's definitely falling down and kind of a mess. And so that is going to come down as part of the design. but that is a good thing to consider, and we'll certainly take that as a point, that perhaps there's a need for another shed. That's a good idea. All right, so Christine, maybe let's move on to the next part.
Yeah, absolutely. So this last section is a series of 5 A, B, C, D, E. I have 5 sections here that I'm going to go through and get your input on for each 4 images. So I'll start off with A, which is the ages 2 to 5 play structure. And what will come up on the screen, you'll see A1, A2, A3, A4. And if you can put in the Q&A your preference, and if you could just also write like a word or short phrase of why it is your preference, that would be really helpful. And it will help us as we move forward to select equipment and refine design to get kind of this extra bit of input from you all.
Also, if you feel strongly about something and you want to, you just raise your hand and talk about it too. So both options exist. We just want to hear from you. No, whatever way is the most comfortable.
Exactly. So first I'll talk about this 2 to 5 age area, and just addressing the comment we received, slides. You may have seen, stainless steel slides. Those are the ones that tend to get really hot. And at Martin's Playground, that's a little bit of an exception recently for Boston Parks, because they had the shade structure over it to prevent how hot it gets, right? And I have to be honest, shade structures are quite a big ticket item cost wise, and we've already heard about a desire for them from the sun and rain from the elements, but to put them over all the play equipment might be kind of pricey and not feasible. But this not having the metal is really helpful for the temperature wise. And so for slides, Aaron's daughter, right? Aaron's daughter wants slides. So there's some options. I mean, first of all, yes, there will be slides on both the 2 to 5 and the 5 to 12, but it could be tube slide. It could be a double slide like you see in A4, or it could be a curving slide like you see in 8.2. And so if you have a preference on slide type, that would be really helpful to know. Also, these images show different approaches to climbing. So A1 has that like ladder that you climb up versus the steps with the transfer stations. Most pieces have the steps with the transfer stations for accessibility, for inclusivity, but the ladder types are different. The rope climbing types, things you can climb on are different between the play structures that we have available to select from. So the last thing I want to note on these is the sensory panels. So different pieces have really cool panels you can kind of play with. Up on A2, you see the things you can slide around, or the windows, or the tables. There's music elements. So do you have a preference on what type of kind of panels you like? So it looks like we're getting a couple comments on these. We have, someone said A1, and because their 4-year-old is their favorite because it looks like and then A2 because it looks like a tiny house. Sorry, I'm struggling to read the comments at the same time, but we're keeping track of everything everyone puts into the Q&A or chat. And then Christine Brandeo, if someone's raising their hand, just interrupt me. Otherwise, let's see, Michelle said Myrtle Playground in Beacon Hill had many push and ride on toys, and especially the very small kids loved it, but it may be hard to manage. The community would have to be very involved. Lauren says her son votes A2 and her daughter votes A3. Oh dear, A2 like the table, that's helpful. It's helpful to know why your son or daughter likes one over the other, just because we can pick, a certain element of one and a certain element of another, similar to what we did with the concept alternatives, mix and match to get something that best meets your needs. Okay, so with that, again, continue putting input into the Q&A. I'm going to move to the 5 to 12 structure. So lots of different options for 5 to 12, like different options for sliding. So some of these are taller. B4 is that piece that's in Dorchester Park, that was playground that was mentioned earlier. So that's a really tall piece. Some people view that the kind of the downside of it is that it's not super transparent, and some, maybe not ideal for caregivers if your child's way up high, but let us know your thoughts versus like one that's more horizontal, the one shown in B1, which is not as tall and more long, more multi-platform, post and platform with like a bridge connection. B2 also shows the bridge. And then as far as the slides, again, B3, there's this new product, this one that really widens out at the bottom on B3. B3 also shows like a double slide. And then as far as climbing, and bridges, there's a variety of different climbing and bridges, shown in these options. So do you have a preference for more of the rope climbing shown on that B4, or do you have, do you like the hand holding climbing better? Or there's these the poles that come straight down. Either or, these are at an angle. There's also the fire poles that come straight down. Sensory panels. There is a variety of different sensory panels that we could select for these products. Things that spin, or the kind of the windows incorporated into it. Any thoughts? So Lauren said, this was back on the 2 to 5 structure. She said that her son liked 2 because it's not as high, and her daughter likes 3 because of all of the slides. So thank you. That's helpful for us to know. And Michelle said that Helen, 3-year-old, votes for A1. She likes the house. Great. And so then going to the B's, what's up on the screen right now, Erin said, B4, I like the twisty slide and the diamond ladder. My 4-year-old likes, I like that there are many ways up. I don't like the poles that go straight down in B2, since that looks like a broken arm to me. Great point. Stephanie Carey said B3. My son is 11, and he said he likes different areas. He likes the bridge, the climbing. Barbie says, I prefer A3. So that's going back to the other ones. Seems very simple for the tiny tots and less worry for the parents. Also, the poles behind the slides provide additional activities for kids. So we got a lot more, but I'm gonna keep adding, please. I see a bunch of are coming in, so keep adding your comments. I'm just gonna move forward to the C group. So C is this area that's between the 5 to 12 tower and the structure and the swing set, the 3 bays of swings. So we're going to be putting back 3 bays of swings. So you have the toddler bucket seats and the belt seats, the ADA bucket seat, but we're also thinking, okay, there's an opportunity for like something else. And it could be a dish swing, like what's shown in C4, or it could be a spinning element. So this is a group spinning element, C1, or it could be a group swaying element that goes back and forth. This is an inclusive element. And then, so if someone's in a wheelchair, they can be part of the spinning or the swaying. And then C2 is more of like the individual pieces, I think someone mentioned earlier. So do you have a preference for C1, C2, maybe a couple C2s, C3, C4? Or alternatively, the structures could be bigger. So, you know, we're trying in a playground design to address, you know, spinning, swaying, swinging, climbing, all these aspects, sliding, did I say sliding? All these parts of play, types of play in the equipment, but there's kind of this zone where we think we can fit another element. So just wanted to hear your preference because we won't be able to fit everything. So as far as the C's, Aaron, or Lauren, sorry, said that the swings are very popular at Ryan. So the more swings, the better. So I think that would be a vote for the dish swing. That you can clarify. Aaron said that she thinks the fifth graders at her school would prefer the big swing in C4. We have, and also said that her daughter likes the seesaw action in C3. Stephanie Carey said he likes the C3 and C4 for older kids. Michelle says C3. We like that it is accessible, good for many age groups, and you can use it alone or with others, but there are already a bunch of swings. And then Kara has said, love C4, C1, C3 in that order. Activities kids can do in groups. There is a swing like C4 at Martin's Playground near the Children's Museum that is wildly popular. So again, that vote was first for C4. So thank you. Keep adding to this, to your input to the Q&A. I'm just going to move on to D. And so D is water play. And I mentioned this earlier that we have some images to get your input on for the water play. Again, we're going twice as big compared relative to the existing water play, going twice as big with this water play area. But it could be either a more like a water course that is more, you're getting wet with your hands, you're manipulating the water with a hand pump, and then you know, maybe this is D1 and D3 with elements, you know, dams and such that you can pull up and down to move the water along. So there's some cool designs out there, D1 and D3, that is like, you know, an interactive water course versus D2 and D4, which is full on soak. D2 is the sprays come up, up at you. They're in the pavement, embedded, you know, flush with the pavement. So the water comes up. You've probably seen this around Boston. Or D4, which is the water comes out from an element, you know, on the sides, maybe a kind of water tunnel element. So is there, you know, D1, D2, D3, D4? And if you have, again, I don't know, Christine, if there's any hands raised.
Not at this time.
Okay, but if you feel strongly or want to expand on your preference for water play, the design, or anything else we've gone over, you can just raise your hand. So Nancy has said D2. And then Lauren has said, my kids like water play too. They like the colors. Okay, that's good to know. I didn't ask about that. That's really good to know. The colors and more opportunity to get soaked. Okay, good to know. And then Erin said D2, my daughter likes the spray and fountains. I think it's a good idea because it will keep everyone cool in the summer. It's a long way to the local pool, and sometimes in the summer, the water at Savin Beach is unsafe to swim in. And then Stephanie, D2, awesome open space, more fun for more kids. Maureen M said D2 or D4. So a lot of votes for D2, and then D4 is a soaking element as well. So okay, here, Kara added, can there be a combination of the two types? Great question. Splash pad in the middle and interactive water activities along the edges with no pool nearby. The full splash pad is needed, but other stuff might be fun for kids who arrive to park without swimsuit to still play in water. that we'll definitely take that into consideration. We'd love to do it all. And maybe there's an opportunity to have a little bit of both. We had an overwhelming number of people vote for D2, or, you know, the kind of full on soak aspect. But if, you know, take all this, go home, sleep tonight, think about it. You can email B with any kind of follow-up thoughts you have on water play. And we will go back to the drawing board and, you know, further this design to, you know, meet what we're hearing from you all. So with that, I'm just gonna, Michelle said that Helen likes D1. We feel like it would work well in the winter too. Okay. B, is there anything you want to add before? I'm just thinking with water in the winter. As far as I know, Parks turns off the water in the winter, but I can go ahead.
We are looking at that too, and I think the comment may be sort of saying like when the water is off in the winter, this is still something that would be perhaps entertaining for kids to sort of play in and around. But we do turn the water off in the winter because otherwise the pipes will freeze and explode. So just in case there are any conceptions that we'll be leaving it on, we're not. But I also wanted to say, like, this is such great feedback that we're getting from everybody. This has been unbelievably helpful. Like everybody contributing to the Q&A with your kids, like the input about what they want, and the people who raised your hands and spoke and had your kids speak. I just have to say, I'm really, really grateful that we had such great attendance at this meeting too. I think at our peak, there were, I think 23 people that I noted. We're back down to about 17, but you guys have been great giving us feedback. I'm very, very grateful. I don't know, was this the last slide that we had for more, or do we have more?
We just the last one, which is the graphics, which actually for the water play, the D2, you know, folks talking about the color and the pattern and everything and then this last comment about it being used in the winter, you know, maybe there's something cool we can do with the graphics. So it's a place that is as activated in the winter as well. And what do I mean by that? I'm thinking, you know, so when there isn't water going on at the water play in the winter, and maybe when kids aren't playing basketball, like what else could these spaces be? And maybe we can do some cool pavement graphics. So A1 is like a mural, like there was, you know, there is a mural right now at the playground behind the 2 to 5 area that we're looking to keep. And you know, there's the tiles around the existing water play, there's that frog, there is, you know, an art community in the neighborhood. So looking for opportunities to add additional art to this space, maybe a mural at that court would be nice. I don't know, let us know. Also, other options would be games or, you know, exercise activities. Like E2 shows this kind of jump over hurdles, and E4 is a basketball court over in Somerville with Foursquare in it. E3 is a graphic. I don't know, let us know your thoughts. Do you have a preference for E1, E2, E3, E4, and why? Or do you have other ideas that we're not showing? So far, Aaron's mentioned E4. My students really, really love Foursquare. My daughter votes for E1, mostly because the monster looks amazing. And she also likes the patterns in E2. So thank you. That's great to know. And anyone else? Aaron says, sorry, the patterns in E3. Okay, I got it when you said that, but that's because I'm getting my numbers confused. E3, yes, the patterns in E3. So maybe it's a combination of Foursquare, but in a mural piece. So a little of kind of everything. I think that's doable. Stephanie said E2 as something to do in the open space, E1 for the art, and yes to Foursquare. Did I get that right? Lauren says E3 is beautiful. Art opportunities are there for all paths like underground, ink block, not just the court. That's true. This photo down the right hand side, Somerville, it's the Hoyt Sullivan Playground. I don't know if you know it in Somerville, but there's a loop similar to the one we have conceptualized for Ryan that shows pavement markings, around it. So that's a good point. Michelle says Helen loves E2, likes the ground graphics at the nearby elementary schools that have lines to follow in different motions. And then Maureen M said E2 and like E4 for BB basketball, I assume. So with that, just because I think I'm past time, it's after 7:30. So we're gonna wrap up now, but we're going to give you again Bee's contact info so you can share with her additional input. And if you continue writing in the Q&A, we're receiving it all, so you know. So we'll continue to leave it open for a little bit after we conclude the meeting.
So this is just in conclusion, this is our schedule. You can see we're going to be refining the design based on this great feedback that we got at this meeting and developing it further to, be more specific with the play equipment, the water features, etc. So just want to thank you all again for all those great pointers and opinions that you shared. We're looking at an early spring construction for 2022. And then hopefully by next summer, 2022, not this summer, but next summer, we would be opening up with our new park. So if we look at the last slide here, we've got my contact info, I believe. No, is there no slide? Oh, no.
We do. I'm just trying to get to it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, here we go. Sorry about that.
Oh, you know what? Okay, it's not in,
Oh.
And they can't see the chat either. Okay, and you know what? If you go to the website, and this is the QR code, and here's the website right here, you can contact me via that way because it has my phone number and my email on our website. I think there is also a sort of general response button as well. We will have all of your emails from this meeting, from the Zoom log. And so I'm going to send out an email to everybody, BCCing you all. So if you have any thoughts or feedback after the meeting, just respond to that email and I'll get it and we can continue the conversation that way. Again, I just want to say this has been incredibly helpful and we really look forward to building this playground. I think you guys are a wonderful group of people and yeah, this has just been very, very helpful. So thank you all and I hope you have a good night and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.